Sahana vavatu, Sahanau bhunaktu, Sahaviryam karavavahe, Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahe. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So I want to talk about this prayer, and it's a very important prayer in our tradition. So the verse starts out by saying, may we be protected. Well, it's not just talking about protection right now. It's talking about protection at all times. When we go home, right? When we're eating, when we're thinking, when you're talking. So it's trying to bring out, may my intention to understand, may all of the variables in the field, may all of those variables in the environment be conducive for that growth. And for them to be conducive, keep me safe, God. Keep me safe in whatever way that I need to be safe, so that this knowledge can slowly percolate and change the entirety of my being. Okay? So then the verse continues and it says, Saha now bhunaktu. So it says, not only do we need to be protected, but let us be nourished. So if you think about, what nourishment means, like what is nourishment? What is emotional nourishment for you, for example? When you feel?
Nurtured.
When you feel nurtured, okay. And what does it mean to feel nurtured?
To be happy.
Okay, so you're...
Gives you a change.
Sorry?
Something in you. Gives you a change. Something.
In you, so there's space for change,
Yeah.
right? So I'm being nurtured by my environment in such a way, the environment is providing some happiness. There is some conducive things in the environment that's allowing that change to take place. Okay? Sahana vavatu. May we be protected. Who? Both. It's not just about you, it's also about the teacher, because it's a relationship. And the relationship, like anything, needs time to develop. So may this relationship slowly, right, develop in a way that both of us can put our best forward. Otherwise, if it's just one side, right, it's kind of like I do the talking, you do the listening, or you do the listening and you do all the talking, Andre, right? So it doesn't really work. So we both need to put our best effort forward so that the teacher can get encouraged and so that you can stay alert and, so that this teaching can become relevant. We want it to be relevant, practical, day-to-day applicable. So therefore, may we be nurtured, may we be protected, and may sahaviryam karavavahe. May we have the capacity to acquire the knowledge. So think about this. Suppose that you're coming to the class and the words are fine, the teaching is fine, but somehow it's just not clicking, right? The capacity for that knowledge to kind of settle down is just not there. Do you know this experience? You know it should be taking place. It's clear, it's relatively clear, right? We're not saying it's perfectly clear, it's relatively clear, but something's going on in such a manner that no matter what is said, it's just kind of not going for me. So we are asking the Lord, may I acquire this capacity so that when I do expose myself to the knowledge, when this knowledge is presented in the way that it will be presented, may what is meant to be communicated, what is intended to be transferred from the student to the teacher, may that click. And if some things don't click, that is fine. It will click tomorrow. So just give it some time, because the brain needs some time to assimilate this knowledge. It needs to sleep on it. In the memory courses, they will say that if you're learning a language or any topic, then what you do is you learn a section of that topic and then sleep on it. And then tomorrow when you wake up, you notice this? It suddenly has this new clarity about it. So do keep this in mind. If it's sort of foreign, the idea is foreign that we will discuss, then, right, keep in mind, it will keep on building up. So there's a patience factor that's involved here, okay? Tejasvin. So tejas means may our minds be brilliant, right? So may our brain be switched on. May our learning be brilliant. Okay, so we're asking this, may my learning be clear? May I pay attention? May I, tune into the teaching? Ma vidvishawahai. See, what this means literally is may we not quarrel, but there's more to it. Suppose during the teaching, see, what we're sharing here during the teaching is going to be maybe new. It's going to be different, right? There's a different style. So there's a tendency to compare. This is what the brain does. It does this all the time. Like, this person can explain that better. This person is like this and they're like that. It's not clicking. I'm going to go back to someone else. And the brain just has this need to sort of put things into a box very quickly. And they say, no, I've heard enough. I'm not going to give myself a chance to actually stick around long enough until the knowledge starts to click and until I connect with the speaker. There's another tendency where you perhaps have learned something in a different way, in a different manner, and everyone uses a different language to communicate the same concept. Did you notice this? There's a different vocabulary. And so sometimes there's this tendency to say, I don't like the vocabulary that's being used, right? So this needs to be put aside for a moment because every teacher has a style. Every person has a style. And so if the person's sort of carrying this style from the past and they're superimposing it onto everyone else, onto all of the other speakers, then it's like nobody has a chance, right? Nobody has a chance to show you a different standpoint. And then it says, Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Yeah, so there's different variables in our environment that prevent us from growing, okay? And the first variable is, if you look at Adhyatmika, this is the first Om. Adhyatmika means it's about me, right, the individual. So sometimes the person may have a personal kind of a illness, right? Illness. And then no matter what is said, you're just not going to kind of concentrate, right? So may these variables associated to my personal self, may they be removed. May variables like lack of attention, memory, judging, distraction, Someone does something in the room and then, Anger, this is another thing, is that when we say something, then it triggers something in me, right? It's too like this, it's too like that. And so the voice comes up and it fills in to explain one's anger. Yeah, so the mind is brilliant at doing this. It creates a narrative and it says, the reason why I am angry, or the reason why, I am having judgments or memory issues is because, and then that reason always has to do with everything other than yourself. Projection, this is how the mind is. It just projects. It's easy because it's so easy to do this. It's much easier to project and assign some fault onto a person, onto the environment, onto the class, onto the weather, onto India, onto whatever it is. It's just so quickly to do this. It's so easy to do this. But it's much harder, I tell you, to bring it to yourself and say, what in me is being triggered and causing me to have this orientation about the situation, which doesn't allow me to memorize, doesn't allow me to assimilate, to kind of have a value neutral experience in an environment that I can learn. So it comes back to the individual. Right? Because usually it's very easy to just say they're projecting. But look at this, that person also has a lot of years of experience. So it's not only projection, there is some value in what they said, but the other value, the other percentage may be a projection. So it's up to the individual to understand how much of this is my own stuff, how much truth does this opinion or this feedback have in relative to myself, and how much of it could be their stuff that they are, who said, projecting outwards, because it's much easier to project, justify, and then move on. May those personal, should we call them sabotagers, personal enemies of mine that are brewing in the unconscious mind, dictating how is it that this should be? How is it that this should be not? Shoulds and shouldn'ts. It should be like this, it shouldn't be like that. And all of this comes from our unconscious projections, usually unresolved, usually left untouched, usually left sort of just buried away. And when something in the environment comes up and triggers, it's a perfect opportunity for it to come out. And because the person doesn't have the right knowledge in that moment, nothing to really back up and investigate the situation, the fastest way to get rid of it is to just sort of project it and point out that it's the fault of something external to the mind which has created the projection. But look at this. If the mind has created the projection, then by definition, where is the problem? In that very mind that created the projection. Nobody forced me to create a projection that would otherwise create a disharmony in myself. Nobody would force, and you wouldn't even force yourself to do this, but it happens anyway. Therefore, we can say that when there is a projection, that unconscious, buried notion has stayed past my view, past my conscious observation, it has come out, and in this moment, it has decided how things should be, which are not aligned or keeping with the reality, and therefore that produces what kind of an emotion in oneself? One of discord, one of judgment, one of closure, one of smallness, one of isolation from the world. In this course, the teaching, the essence is all that is here is one without a second. All that is here is Ishvara. Amidst this knowledge, I'm allowing this mind to keep on saying, no, this is not Ishvara, that is Ishvara. That is not Ishvara, this is Ishvara. Just think about this. So therefore, the course is now going to bring focus onto the individual. It's a very rigorous text that's going to focus onto the individual and get into this whole projection and this need to create a reality not keeping with what is. We call this a personal projection. I'll use the Sanskrit term later, but for now, it's a personal reality which doesn't allow the individual to live in harmony with themselves, with all that is here with God. Doesn't allow them to live a life that is peaceful, a life that is relatively clean, a life that is cheerful, cheerful predisposition, a friendly tone of expression, a need to communicate and to ask questions, to have this nice relation between two individuals. So we need to look at this. This is the first Shanti.
How is judgment different from Viveka?
How is judgment different from Viveka, which was asked by Meena? See, judgment is this, we have 4 types of thinking. The first type of thinking is the easiest because it's impulsive. So this means however I have memorized to think about things. So what happens? I draw from the memory and bring it into the present. So my past impression, my past response has dictated how the present orientation should be. That's impulse. Okay? It happens so quickly, there's no conscious interception in that process. It just happens. It just happens from the past. So judgment is mainly past-oriented thinking, wallpapering the present with that kind of thinking in such a manner that it's expedient. It's very expedient to say, this is how it is, and I have solved the problem. But it's never how it is according to the past, is it? Because the new moment is completely different and demands a new kind of response than the previous moment did. So the mind has this need to, in this book called Thinking Fast and Slow, they have these 2 systems, System 1 and System 2. Now, if I'm not mixing up, I think System 1 was the slow system, right? One of them, right? Say system 1 is a slow system. System 1 is that system that intercepts when there is a need to say, this should be like that, or this shouldn't be like that. System 1 says, oh, why? Why shouldn't it be like that? Let me ask the question, what am I resisting in this moment that is not allowing me to be with the moment right now? What is that resistance that is occurring or happening in me right now? System 2 is that expedient system. Expediency is whereby you say something and it seems to be appropriate, but because the orientations, right, from the past, as I said, are not keeping with the present, it seems to be easy, but it always causes discord in the environment. Okay? Because the environment demands a new kind of response every single day, every single hour, every single minute, every single moment. Now, when Viveka, which is a discriminative inquiry, comes up, what we say is, out of these 4 levels of thinking, the first one being impulsive, the second one being mechanical. Mechanical is more whereby it's doing things again and again and again. It may not be a bad thing, but it's kind of like you're just getting the process done, right? It's just mechanical. It's just again and again. You think like that again, you think like that again. And it's not really, sort of keeping with reality, but at least it has been thought of a little bit. And so you said, well, that's good enough. This way of positive thinking, that's a typical example. Positive thinking, that's mechanical. Why does everything have to be a positive thinking thing? We talk about positive thinking, negative thinking, right? Oh, I thought about negativity in the past, and therefore I think about in that orientation again in the present. So this is mechanical. It's being done again and again and again. Now, when it comes to the third system, and this is where Mina has mentioned Viveka. Viveka is deliberate. So when something comes up in the moment, that is the perfect time to attack it. The absolute perfect time to look at it when something comes up right now. Because Vedanta, without discomfort, doesn't have much context. It's very easy to feel good and talk about the reality, but I tell you, you really get put on the spot. You really test how firm you are in the moment when something uncomfortable comes up. So discomfort gives you the opportunity for Viveka, that means deliberate thinking, in such a manner that you can start to ask questions. What could be the cause of this? If you don't know, then Lord, may you please help me open up my mind, open up my, my ways of conduct, my ways of behavior. Show me something that I may be oblivious to. Show me a blind spot that I'm completely oblivious to right now, so that this situation can leave, so that this situation can resolve itself. So if the person resolves in the first, that is the impulsive and mechanical, what happens? Those two become the dominant forces in life, impulsive and mechanical. So in other words, they become the orientation by which I move in this world. And therefore, I'm not really with the environment. I am kind of like, painting it with my own stuff. So deliberate thinking is this Viveka, where you're thinking in regards to your thinking. You see this? You're thinking about your thinking. Okay? So that is deliberate thinking. That is Viveka. It's not just thinking, because thinking is what? Mechanical or impulsive. That is thinking. We all share, I'm thinking all day. Yeah, but what kind of thinking? Are you thinking about your very thinking? That is third method, deliberate. That's the next step. And what happens after you thinking about your thinking, about the world, about yourself, about the reality, about God, about people, about everything? What happens after you have thought about thinking? It becomes spontaneous. It becomes so normal that it's just how it is. You become your own psychologist, your own therapist. You become the person who's under the spotlight of your own assessment, of your own evaluation about the way that this person sitting now in this chair is thinking about this person thinking. So it's going back to oneself. First Shanti, Om Shanti. Second Shanti is, so the first one is Adhyatmika. The second one is Adhi Bhautika. Adhi Bhautika. So this is environmental concerns. For example, a plane is late, right? Or you've got, what do I say here? We've got loud noises, right? Someone's coughing in the class, so it can kind of become a little bit disturbing. And so we're asking, may these variables that could, someone starts playing loud music outside, and you're like, oh no, game over, right? Or something like that, right? So we want these external variables to be clean in such a manner that you have spaciousness for growth. So Adhi Bhautika, we're asking the Lord, may those variables which are in the environment, unbeknownst to us, may they be temporarily reduced so that the knowledge can take place to the best of its capacities. Adhi Daivika. And this is natural forces, such as floods, rain, thunder, right? Suppose that, we need electricity, and then suddenly the thunder blows out the power generator, and we go out of electricity and we can't really learn. So now we're asking, Lord, give me those variables, help me with those things in my life, in my experience, that are beyond my control. However, despite them being beyond my control, they still impact the kind of experience that you have, right, relative to your learning.
Like fog in Delhi?
This is perfect. Fog in Delhi. What else?
Accidents?
Huh?
Accidents?
Accidents. Okay, accidents, yeah. Getting here and there's an accident. It was beyond your control. War. Suppose you've got Adhyatmika, you've got the health, you got a house that is relatively, you got air conditioning, you've got all of the livelihoods, but there is a war going on in your country. Look at this. Can you control that? No. But you can reduce the impact of that. How? Through the former two, through Adhyatmika and Adhi Bhautika. So we're working, what control do I have and what control do I not have? And I have to know that. And then apply action. Where can I take my effort onto those things where I do have control? And where am I wasting my time, energy, and effort on things that I don't have control? Do I even know where is my level of control and where is my level of absence of control? Is that clear? See, this is what it means to bring the attention onto oneself. Because most of our time goes on, controlling the environment, controlling the mind, right? Yoga, with all the respect to yoga, right? It's wonderful. I do yoga every morning. I do meditation. But then there's kind of like an extra onto that. And that is, let me control my mind so much that it's always happy. It's always established in bliss. It's always speaking smoothly. It never makes a mistake. It always, thinks positive. It always brings the right knowledge in reference to the environment. It always finds the best in everyone. And it always thinks about thinking. Is this possible? Come on, right? So your mind is an instrument. And the instrument doesn't always function according to your whims and fancies because you didn't create your instrument. If you created it, you would have control. But we didn't create, we just sort of eat food and the brain gets developed. And the neurons start to wire and fire, and they start to have certain, orientations about life. And did you choose, sort of who your parents are going to be, whether they're going to be religious, or, in how much education they're going to put you in, or what education they'll put you in? Did you have control over that? So we are put in an environment with the family members who also have their own things which are going to get superimposed onto us you also have to deal with that. And amongst that, I'm expecting my mind to be perfectly, oriented every single day. It doesn't happen. That is not how reality works. So the first thing we need to do is let go of this idea that the mind has to be perfect. Okay, because we're discerning between mind and I. They're two different things altogether. The mind will go through ups and downs, but the understanding is, despite the ups and downs, there's a freedom there. Okay, so Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Adhyatmika, Adhibhautika, Adhidaivika. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.